What's going on, guys? Happy June. Summer's almost here. Tank is doing really well. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning, so the T5s aren't on yet, just the LEDs, and tank's looking a little more blue because of it. But corals and fish are doing really well. Things continue to grow. Some stuff really well, other stuff, kind of coming along. Torches are doing great. Really happy with the growth there. A lot of the LPS are looking great. SPS is looking well. I'll show you the softy tank in a minute. It's doing really well. I've made a few changes, as I always seem to be doing, to the tank, and I will show you some of that stuff in a minute. Just give you kind of a quick walk around of the tank here. You can see the Kessels are on. The Reef Bright is on, but not the T5s. The two Max Spec Gyres are doing great. Loving the flow from the two of them. The corals seem to have responded really well. I have the XF250 on one end and my old XF150 on the other end. And here you're going to see another change, which is that I picked up the Akaso EK7000 action camera, which allows me to film underwater, which is pretty sweet. It's nice to be able to get this different perspective on the tank. I'm still getting used to it a little bit, so pardon the shakiness as I'm trying to figure out the best way to film. At some point I would love to mount the camera down there and just film for 10 minutes or so and see what how the fish respond to just having the camera in the tank without my hand, because as soon as I stick my hand in the tank, they scatter. So I'll do that at some point and, make a nice video just of what's going on under the surface here, because it really does take a nice camera shot here of what's going on under, and we'll come back over on the other side. You can see some of the torches, some of the fish. There's that gigantic Slimer colony, which is growing really well. Yellow Tang is freaking out, as he so often does. But really happy with the camera. Takes great video, and just having the ability to be able to film underwater is sweet. So like I said, at some point I'll grab some shots of just the tank without my hand in it, because as you can see, the fish all make themselves very scarce with my hand in the water. So we'll figure that out at some point. But just to reiterate, the tank is doing really well, very stable. I just did a water change this morning. Alkalinity sits like 8.8 or so. I'm happy with it there. Corals are growing well. Color's great. Phosphate was 0.02 this morning on the Hanna ULR checker. So tanks continues to be doing really well. Really happy with what's kind of happening within the four walls of the tank itself. Regardless of any changes that have gone on outside of the tank. Just really happy with it. Just love sitting and enjoying it. And here we'll take another peek under the water from this side of the tank. Sailfin Tang decides he doesn't like my hand in the water either. I'll probably try to set the camera up on some type of stick or something so that I can put it underwater without my hand in there at some point. But yeah, really happy with it. Get a nice little angle down here, a little bit lower of what's going on. And so that's about it with this tank. Everything's doing really well, continues to be thriving. There's my hand, just getting some of the water off of it. And just to peek around the room, here's the other tank, and there's some big changes here. I have sort of been trying to figure out what to do as far as lighting goes on the little tank. And so I picked up the Kessel A80, which I love. It's doing really well. And I have it connected down through the floor, through the basement, to the Kessel Spectral controller that controls the Kessels on the big tank. So the light on the little tank is following the same schedule as the Kessels on the big tank, which is awesome. And I've added a few new corals. I added this toadstool, some zoanthids, some mushrooms, and this little guy just keeps doing really well. The clownfish continue to never swim around. They just hide in the corner all the time. But just really happy with the state of the little tank. It's very low maintenance. I just wipe the glass down, and that's about it. I don't vacuum it. I'm trying to let it get a little dirtier than the big tank, just because of the soft coral. And now we're in the basement, and this is sort of a walk into my fish area, which will eventually be the fish room. Things are going really well down here. A couple new changes down here as well that I'll walk you through, and if you've got a sharp eye, you might notice some of them. Tank's doing really well. Frag tank is doing great. I'll turn the light on here in a second, so you can get a shot of the frag tank with the lights on. The refugium is just exploded. I need to rip out about 3/4 of that algae in there, because it just is so much growth. What I did pick up is the FMM, the flow monitoring module for the Apex, and I currently have the 1/2-inch monitor on the UV sterilizer, as you can see here, and the 1-inch on the return line. And I'll be honest with you, and I'll show you guys the numbers in a second, I was shocked by the small amount of flow that's going through my return line, and I'm almost questioning whether it's accurate or not. I'm not sure, I guess. And I did put it after the return line for the little tank, so I wonder if that played into it. But here's the frag tank with the light on. I picked up a yellow mimic tang to try and clean up a little bit of the algae that's growing in here. He seems to be doing pretty well, loves to swim around in the flow. He's in there by himself, so there's plenty of room for him to swim around. I get tons of flow from the 2 J-bows. But the frag tank is doing really well. The corals are growing great in there, which I'm surprised because it's just a 4-bulb tech light. And here's a shot under the water. Corals doing really well, growing. A little bit of algae on the egg crate that I'm hoping the tank takes care of. Here he is swimming in the flow. But overall, really happy with the frag tank. It was a pretty inexpensive addition to the system. I didn't have to do much besides plumbing it in. And here's this guy. Was not nervous about the camera being around him, so I thought, let me get a couple of shots at this guy, because he was fine with my hand in the water. Didn't bother him at all. Could be just that he's just waking up. Doesn't even recognize it, because I had just turned the light back on. But back to the FMM, and I'll show you the numbers here in a second. I was just a little surprised. It's giving me like 300 gallons per hour through the 1-inch return line on a pump that should be like 4,300 gallons an hour. And I know I've got plumbing and a manifold, but if you look at Apex Fusion, it's saying 300 gallons per hour on a 4,300 gallon per hour pump. I just am not sure if that's correct. It's not a big deal because the tank is fine, it's doing well, and I'm not overly concerned. Knowing the number doesn't necessarily change that the tank is working well. I was just a little surprised by that number, and I'll look into it some more, and maybe I need the 2-inch flow monitor. Maybe it's restricting the flow too much. I don't know. But overall, tank's doing really well. It's, about 1.5 years old at this point. The next step, I want to do a water change station. But thanks for watching, and feel free to leave comments and questions in the comment section, and talk to you guys soon.